Is it actually working? Possibly. It may also break at any moment, whenever it wants to. Just so, I don't really feel like working right now. I know that you literally did nothing, but how about we just like stop the stream just because the internet's working fine. Hopefully that fixed it. I'm going to have to reset the chat. Hopefully, if it is working, then welcome back. I guess we'll just continue from here. Like the goal right now, I want to visit Moon, and after seeing Moon, I'm going to passage back to the shelter that I just stayed in. Because I would like to get to Subterranean through... Oh, goodness. I didn't want to go through that pipe, but... Okay, wow. That was very close to killing me. Because they almost timed their harpoon shots with me exiting the pipe. That's cool. I want to get to the depths through Farm Rays and Sky Islands, because those are usually very bright regions, and I would like to see how they look as this character. Careful, lizards. Hopefully I can make it to Moon quite quickly, just by taking the route that I always take. Through Industrial and dropping my mask. I guess having this vulture mask makes things kind of easier, but I kind of am considering dropping it, because honestly I've kind of moved away from enjoying using vulture masks. They make the games so much easier. You can just basically ignore like half the creatures that might be dangerous. Dog room. And when I'm checking out a new character, I want to get the full experience, everything that the character has to offer. And if I'm just gonna carry around a mask to ignore having to deal with like half the creatures I'm gonna encounter, then it's not going to give me a full picture of what the characters like to play. Hello, welcome to the stream. Love this mod. I'm enjoying it so far. I always like when mods like change the way the game feels. Oops. Yep. And here's some food immediately. One that like changed the way the game feels, just making everything dark and changing the way that you see the world. That definitely does it. But also that I like when mods surprise me with the amount of content they have. We saw a little bit of a cutscene earlier, and nothing else after that. So maybe it works like Artificer, where we need to like shelter for some amount of time. Okay. Like for Artificer, I believe it's like every 5 cycles you see like a dream when sheltering. So maybe it works the same as this character. I don't know what cycle it is. For some reason you can't check. Oh, cycle 9. So maybe next cycle we will see another cutscene. This doesn't count as a death. Oh wow, it's so bright. Yeah, I've noticed centipedes are quite hard to see. Because I mean, I think it'd be nice if all creatures were like that. Because you can still see their glow just because of the way that they're rendered. Like these plants in the background, for example, they're like bright pink, and we can still see them perfectly fine. The other like lizards and like a lot of creatures' eyes, they are like glowing I think that's because of they're like rendered differently. They're kind of like rendered as like bright as possible, regardless of any like other lighting. Oh, I kind of wanted to eat that lizard. Like I can see all these lizards totally fine, and I would like it if I couldn't see them like centipedes, because centipedes are suddenly like way more dangerous. They don't glow at all, and other than their sound, you know, I mean sometimes you can kind of tell that a centipede is large because of the sound that it makes, but it's, you know, sometimes very small centipedes can make a lot of noise. And look, these little flies and this white lizard, they're completely visible, so if all creatures were like super dark, also dropwigs have a similar difficulty with being hard to see. But if all creatures were this hard to see, it would add to the feel of it being an actual blind character. Creatures are bad because the Slugcat hears them. The thing is that some creatures, like this vulture, for example, its body isn't bright at all. It's only like the particle effects that you can see. And drop creatures, when after they drop, of course. But you still can't see them at all. So I think I would like to see. I mean, there's potential for this mod to be updated, but I would like to see this kind of effect that is around the player right now, this like glowing effect. I think it should be, this should happen only when in parts of the screen where there's some sort of noise. So if the player, so when the player is walking around, that should make a noise that lets us see. When creatures are walking around, we should be able to see that. But if a creature is very quiet, like a dropwig on a ceiling, we should not be able to see it at all. Or like a white lizard, you know? Oh, I guess the karma flower is not here at all. That's cool. I should have grabbed the one earlier. Wait, did I die later than this? I died right here. Oh, I remembered it wrong. Yeah, here's the karma flower. Oh wow, nice dodge. But I imagine that dealing with the rendering system of this game is quite complicated. So when you're creating a mod, you know, you kind of have to fight with that. Because I had a theory that the way this glowing effect works, it's borrowed from the Overseer's effect when you're playing as the monk. Because the Overseer will provide you with a little bit of visibility in dark areas when you're playing as the monk. So maybe that effect is like hard-coded to only be visible around the Slugcat, and it'd be really hard to get it to work on other parts of the screen. And also it might be really hard to remove the bright like glowing effect from like various creatures and background elements. So, you know, it's understandable. But I also thought, you know, what if you had an image unless Brendan isn't using Unity, so it uses another library to render. I mean, Unity games have kind of a perception of being like very similar or being like kind of low quality. That's mostly because of all the tools that Unity has. So if you want to make a game but you're not too experienced, Unity can help out in a lot of areas. But it means that those kind of games end up looking similar. They're all using the same tools. But Rain World, despite being a Unity game, like just went and did its own thing in every single way. So it does not look like a Unity game at all, and looks like very unique. But I had an idea of like, what if you just had an image that was a completely black screen, but with a like hole cut out of the middle with like a gradient effect, and that would always be centered on the player, just like overlaid on the top of the screen. So that way everything would be in complete darkness, like some distance away from the player. But otherwise, you know, you'd be able to see what's close to you. And that would kind of bypass the way the rendering works, because even if like things are glowing in the distance that you'd normally be able to see, they would just be obscured by this overlay on the screen, so you still wouldn't be able to see them. I feel like that wouldn't be too hard to implement. Although I don't know if that's what this developer would want to do, or what they have planned for this character. And maybe they'd want to kind of go along with the idea of like being able to see noise. Like if anything makes any sounds, you'd be able to hear that. Oh shoot. Okay, well this spider might follow me. And I imagine that if you had that image overlay thing, then it'd be really hard to see anything else other than that if you wanted to. Over everything and then put the monk illumination over that. That sounds complicated. I mean, of course, I don't have any idea how... Oh, I'm already full. I don't know how it's like set up, so maybe that'd be impossible to mod. Or maybe it'd be very possible. So all you have to do is take the layer of like the monk effect, the monk illumination, and isolate it in its own layer and just put it on top of. Just put it on top of a black screen, essentially. Yeah, I don't know. I have no idea how it works. Probably a lot more complicated. Is it about to rain? Yeah, it is about to rain. I mean, I'm decently close to a shelter, I think. I totally forgot about the rain. This room might be hard to get through. Okay, I think I'm fine. As long as I can get to this room. There I am. Yeah, we're fine. Trying through shade is the same. But actually, I think it's different because you actually end up having more visibility than normal. In some rooms, of course, you can... Oh, yeah, here's another cutscene. Give them a pearl. I can't do anything. Okay. I might beat the game too fast. I'll have to slow down a bit to see all these cutscenes. I know that a lot of people did not see all the cutscenes for Artificer. If you just head straight up to Pebbles and then into Metropolis, you beat the game in very few cycles. Spend most of your time just dying a bunch. And then like one time you make it like to the next shelter, and you only need to do that a few times to make it to the end of the campaign. So you don't spend enough time to actually see all the dreams. I will try to see all of them before ending the stream. How's the Slugcat so far? Well, welcome to the stream. I'm enjoying this character. Honestly, it's not that different from like Hunter. There's a lot of similarities. They have like the same kind of movement stats and probably combat stats too, which is very interesting from a balancing perspective, because you know a lot of the time like new characters have like some sort of strength and some sort of weakness, you know. This character kind of only has a weakness. I mean, Hunter is a pretty strong base to have, right? So they're already like fairly strong, and I guess the weakness is the blindness. But it's a very unique feeling. You know, if you want to, it's very similar to the way Rivulet feels. Because Rivulet, I think that a lot of regions feel very different as Rivulet because of the rain. You know, it's constantly raining. It's kind of like constantly overcast a little bit. as rivulets, so every area feels a little bit different. Wow, that's very bright. Every area that you go through that you're already very familiar with felt just a little bit different when playing as rivulets. And it kind of is the same thing as this character, where I'm familiar with all these rooms, but I don't usually see them in this way, so it just makes it feel all unique. Let's not keep swimming in that direction. But in terms of gameplay, it's not that different. But I think like there could be some changes made to actually like change up the way that it feels to play the game. And specifically by the whole like using hearing instead of seeing. Which would be like complicated to do, but the idea is that whenever anything makes a sound, it would kind of light up the area around it. Like mole lizards, for example, they have no idea where you are, but the moment you make a sound, they kind of know your exact location. And if it kind of worked the same way when playing as this character, you know, there'd be some strategy to like combat, because you know, some creatures like dropwigs or white lizards, you would not be able to see them at all until they were about to attack you. And I'm not gonna bring that mask with me. Maybe you could throw a rock. If you don't know what's going on in there, you could throw a rock to make some noise to see what's going on over there. There could be some interesting strategies. And I also think another good opportunity for this character, there's the Leviathan. Another good opportunity for this character is like an entirely unique region that's like completely dark. And I've kind of compared it to submerged superstructure, right? Rivulet was a character that it's very agile underwater, right? And you know, we already have shoreline and there's like a decent amount of water there, but then you get to submerged superstructure and there's just a ton of water, these like massive underwater caverns. And it's like a lot of fun to explore those because it actually lets you take advantage of Rivulet's movement abilities. Can I grab this fish? There we go. It took way longer than it should have. And I think that the same kind of thing could happen for this character. I thought I could have just swam to the end and it would have been faster. Whatever. But a whole like massive, completely dark region, like shaded, but even more. Would be the perfect thing for this character. Excuse me. Yeah, and if any other character were to go there, then they would have a huge disadvantage. Because even if you had a neuron or a lantern, you'd only be able to see a small area around you. Where this character would be able to see anything that makes a sound. Although that's not really how this character works right now. But it's how I'd like to see them work eventually. And kind of what their description implies. Where are these scavengers? Like, I should not be able to see these scavengers here. It's just their eyes are glowing. Yeah, do you want to go grab that? Oh, who knows where that pearl went? They didn't really implement their abilities. The problem is that it takes a lot more effort to make a whole region that fits with the character's design compared to just creating a character and letting them explore a pre-existing world. So, you know, it's going to take a lot of time for them to create that whole thing. But it's pretty important for a character with really unique abilities to have a region that's designed just for them. Anyway. She's very bright. This seems familiar. Yeah, I don't think there's anything different here. I think the most interesting thing that I've seen so far is the Outsider. They take place in the Saints campaign, and there's a bunch of rooms that are changed to be like more rot infected, because I believe it's supposed to take place closer after Pebbles collapsed, so the rot didn't decay as much. And some of those areas were specifically designed with the Outsider's movements in mind, which is the flying. So you can kind of like fly around, and there's some interesting platforming there, and that's probably the most that I've seen in a mod so far. Just survivor dialogue, okay. Well, that's fine. I don't know. There's not much for Moon to say anyway. I guess I mean, Pebbles wasn't really that interesting either. Just kind of saying that, hey, go ascend, but probably differently. Gravel Eater. I haven't I don't think I've played that character yet. I don't have any food. I hope Jellyfish gives me a lot of food. Okay, we're good. But there's quite a lot of time between creating a character and uploading it to the workshop, and then like actually creating like a full region to go alongside that character. Okay, I'm going to passage back to Chimney Canopy. Probably I was going to find a place with a lot of food for me to just sleep a whole lot. To try to look at the rest of these cutscenes, because I think I could end the game in like a few cycles, depending on the deer. There's also an ability that I've yet to figure out. Apparently there's a way you can like create spears. That's a pearl. Right, and then nothing else happens, so I don't know how that works. Hello, welcome to the stream. I cannot see anything. So we're now heading to Sky Islands, which is a very bright region, so it's going to feel a whole lot different. You know, I'd also just like to say, if any of you have recommendations for mods that you'd like me to play, you can totally like leave comments on the stream VODs. Just explain like what mod it is, like why the mod is interesting. If you want me to play it, because I always see pretty much every comment. Hey Hubert, is that the broken one? There's also some level of quality that I'm looking for. And I don't know if that's a character that fits Oh wow, that's a very agile lizard. If Hubert is the one that I'm thinking of, then I'm probably not going to play it. So I already played a character that moves insanely fast, and it kind of gets annoying after a while. But you know, I might, and you would like me to give some feedback. Should be friends with the scavengers at this point. I believe one of the points of this character is that they do start with pretty good reputation, which I'm always looking for in a mod. Because every single character has bad scavenger reputation for some reason. That guy's just hanging out. I actually forgot where to go for a second. One person commented on one of my streams where I was going through Shaded Citadel, and they said that it looked like I could go through the region completely blind because of how well I did it. And you know, you could kind of memorize a route and get very like familiar with doing something quickly, but that's mostly because you can see a screen and remember exactly what to do for that screen, but you don't have it memorized in advance exactly. You can just see a situation and know what to do in that situation. But if you were to like, whoa, if you were to try to just like remember all of the rooms in sequence, you probably wouldn't be able to do it as easily. At least I don't think I'd be able to, because there's a lot of rooms and a lot of things that you'd have to remember to do that. So like being able to see kind of gives you the kind of like jogs your memory of like what to do for that room. Just like being able to see it and like recognizing like specific landmarks. And this character, it kind of messes with that, because you don't have the same information that other characters get. Oh wow, I really missed both of those rocks. I threw one above him and one below him. At least I got the karma flower back. Do I like the shelter failure mechanic? I do, but not for speedruns. I have that disabled in the remix options, so I never see it. But I did see it for a few times on my first playthrough of Downpour. I do really like it. The problem with Rain World is that there's a difference between the casual experience and the speedrun experience, and a lot of things like shelter failures really mess up with the speedrunning side of things. When you're speedrunning, if there's a shelter failure, you just have to reset your run, because that messes with things you might not be able to karma cache. And just the rain that kind of slows you down in a lot of areas, so you just have to. And I know that it does also extend the length of a cycle, but I don't think that's worth it, having to slow down for the rain all the time. But we are allowed to just disable it, so we do that for speedruns, and that really removes a lot of the. Because it doesn't give you an advantage at all. It just prevents you from getting unlucky and having to restart a run for no reason. However, for a casual run, I really do like shelter failures, because Rain World is a very. Oh no, I don't have a Slugcat. Yeah, I really scared that lizard away. Rain World is a very like immersive game, and when you actually do get to experience like the rain earlier in the cycle, it's like it makes you slow down, kind of. I think it's great. I think it's like very atmospheric. It's a great addition to the game. I just don't like it, the fact that it sometimes just ruins speedruns. Which unfortunately means that I don't ever see it. It'd be quite annoying to have to go back and disable and re-enable that setting all the time depending on what I'm doing. You know what? I'm just gonna grab this guy. For some reason I couldn't pick up the other Slugcat, but this one's better anyway. Hello, egg bug. Hello, white lizard. Goodbye. Luckily, orange lizards aren't the fastest. Like they're actually slower than pink lizards, because you can usually just jump over orange lizards totally fine. Why are you here? I wanted you to fall. You have not fallen. Guess you could just leave. That works too. Thank you. Pink lizards always seem to have the fastest reaction time, and red lizards, of course. That's not a fair comparison. I actually saw that dropping easier because it dropped a mushroom. Otherwise, I would not have seen it at all. Yeah, sometimes you just try to jump over a pink lizard and they immediately grab you out of the air. But it also depends on the lizard. Ooh, cutscene? No, just the long loading screen. There's a passage though. You can see we're actually already very close to getting chieftain. What cycle are we on? 17. That was an interesting sound effect. And it's a good thing that the first thing I decided to do was to get the shaded echo, because I think that might be the only echo left. This room looks a whole lot like the one room in Farmer is, doesn't it? Where there's like these two huge like pits you can fall down, and there's like a shelter up here. And I only just realized that now because of the background. The background looks very similar, and the background is very visible for some reason as this character. I never noticed that before. But also, yeah, look at these plants at the bottom of the screen. They should not be that bright. And hopefully that can be fixed. Although that depends on the difficulty of dealing with this game's rendering engine. If you just can't remove these items or these things on the screen that are like extremely bright like that, then maybe there's nothing you can do. But I think it is a little jarring that you should be completely blind, yet some things are ridiculously bright and you can still see them. Actually, I'm probably going to now stay in like every shelter I come across. That's a large centipede. That's another large centipede. I think there's a shelter this way. I can get some food. Ow. Yeah, there's stuff down there, nothing to eat though. Should be like a centipede or a lizard. Something around. Maybe over here instead. I'll pick up some of these spore pups in case I run. Actually, I could go up to those large centipedes and just use these instead. That's a better idea that I should have done earlier. I don't think there's a... Is there popcorn? I know there's the already popped popcorn. But that's all I saw, so I thought that I couldn't get those for food. Like, those are already popped. Is there one above this? No. Yeah, there's a lot of popcorn plants are removed in the Hunters campaign. These centipedes are really just hanging out up here. Okay, there they are. The spore puffs look really interesting with these visual effects. Hey, don't try to run away. Aren't it? Isn't its den like right here? Yeah, it should be dead. Maybe I'll take this noodle fly too. Hey, come over here. I think, okay, I think this does work the same way that the blinded burden works, because with the blinded burden, graffiti is like very visible in the background. It kind of has that same effect. I'm pretty sure that there's some sort of like daylight variable that determines like the lighting, which is what goes down when it becomes nighttime at the top of the at the top of the wall when it becomes nighttime after the end of the cycle. I think that uses the same effect. And so I'm pretty sure what this mod does is just sets that number to the lowest possible value for like every single room. So it's all in this complete darkness, but it kind of doesn't work completely for some backgrounds. Deer mechanic is awesome. I do not like deer. I mean, I'm choosing to go through this area just to like experience more regions. But I usually prefer to avoid farm rays. I'm not a fan of, because, you know, the creatures are quite unreliable. I have the same problem with jetfish, actually. You can't ever rely on a creature to do exactly what you want it to do. You know, that makes sense. For most of the game, that's totally understandable. But in some areas, you are pretty much absolutely required to use these creatures to progress. The jetfish in some areas of shoreline, and in here, it's the deer. And when this is one of the main paths that the game tells you to go through to get to the end, like Pebbles tells you to go past the farm rays, so you're supposed to go to the deer, and if the deer don't work, that sucks for you. And it's just especially awful for speedruns. If you want to get to the depths, you never go to farm rays. I mean, I think some routes do it, but it's just RNG, you know. You could take the drainage system route, and that is always exactly the same every time you go there. There's always, like, there's no creatures that you have to rely on. You just like go there, and you can get past it, and you can go to the depths. But for here, you know, you might be like waiting around for like 3 minutes, waiting for a deer to show up, only for it to get like stuck on the terrain and not even letting you pass. And for a speedrun, it sucks because it's probably going to be the end of the run if you're on the deer to get to the depths, and to have to give the end of the run to a deer on whether or not you have a good time, that's like quite annoying. I enjoy riding the deer when they function like they're supposed to, yeah. So if they were like super consistent, like if you were to walk into a room, there was a deer there and you could ride it across and that was it, like as long as you had a spore puff, I would be fine with them. It's just that they're unreliable. Sometimes they don't show up at all. Sometimes they get stuck on stuff. And it's kind of especially knowing that you kind of need the spore puffs to ride them, because a lot of players, like, it doesn't tell you that spore puffs do this. I don't know when I learned about this. I guess I probably saw someone else do it in like a speedrun or just playing normally. But I don't know if I would have ever just, oh, I'm going to give this deer a spore puff to cross the swarm grass. Because otherwise, maybe I can use the deer to cross the swarm grass, but you wouldn't know to use a spore puff to do it. And here we are. I mean, I imagine that this is a problem, that more like a technical problem. A bug that could be fixed to make the deer not get stuck like this. But it's still an annoying thing that it hasn't been fixed. Even though there isn't a remix option to tweak deer behavior, which doesn't work at all. In fact, I think it might break them even more. Yeah, now we're going in the wrong direction. No, just kidding. We are going in the right direction. The problem, however, is changing deer to be more consistent would make them feel less like creatures. They would just feel like robots, right? If they always did exactly what you wanted them to do, then they wouldn't really feel like just like random creatures out in the wild, which is what Rainworld is trying to do this whole time. So, like, I guess, there's something that we can do about it. Either we, like, get used to dealing with them the way they are, or remove, like, take away, like, an important part of the game of making all the creatures feel natural. Like actual animals in the wild. But the least that they can do is prevent them from getting stuck on stuff for no reason, because this doesn't make sense. I don't have much time in the cycle. Okay, these guys do give me a lot of food. I was kind of worried. But, I mean, I don't know if there's ever a situation where centipedes don't give you full food. That's the room I have to go through. Okay. Spider zone. You would think that they would run away because of the rain. Oh, rip. Well, time to do that all again. If the deer was a bit faster, I would have enough time to make it to the next area to shelter. So that's just a bit of their inconsistency. There's a centipede somewhere. Yeah, the developers of this game, they're doing something very interesting. Although I imagine it's going to be very different from Rain World. I imagine that we're not going to be seeing any like big new Rain World related stuff. Like mod developers are always going to be creating mods Maybe someone will create something pretty big, kind of like a downpour. But, you know, no, we're not going to be seeing anything canon. No, like, there's probably not going to be a sequel. There's probably not going to be another huge DLC. But that makes sense, I suppose. The original developers have moved on. They're doing their own thing. Which is still probably going to be a very, like, interesting, like, experimental game. Based on the little hints of it that we've seen. Check on the Video Cult YouTube channel. They have posted some interesting videos that I think are related to that project. But it's not Rain World. But I think that hope it's more iterators. I hope it's not. Honestly, the iterators are kind of underwhelming. Like, Pebbles is a very, like, boring region to go through. Like, once you've experienced once, like, you don't want to go back to it. I always end up taking the route up the wall so that I don't have to go through Pebbles. If they added more iterators to the game, it would just be more massive, like, 0G areas, you know? It's not the most fun. Is there a deer? There is. I hope it comes down here and doesn't just sit up there the whole time. Luckily, though, I think that Rain World is such a unique game and such a, like, impactful experience for so many people that it's going to inspire other developers to make games like Rain World. So it's not the end of Rain World-esque games. That was a very interesting sound. Still sitting here doing nothing. So I imagine that in the next 5 years or so, we're going to see some new indie games that are kind of similar to Rain World. We'll just have to see what those end up looking like. Especially with, like, how popular Rain World has become after the release of Downpour. And it also did nothing in this, like, you mean this modded character? I mean, I don't think it has anything to do with this character. I think this is just how deer are. This is what the deer are usually like, as no matter, like, regardless of the character I'm playing. And this one is deciding to walk very slowly. Although I think that there is, you know, enough content related to, like, exploring iterators, like being able to go into Pebbles and Moon. Like, there's enough of that, right? But there could be more, like, story related content, because there's a lot that we don't know about the iterators outside of the local group, and there's, like, still potential there. I don't know what it would be, but there's some interesting stuff out there that we never get to really look into within this game. The sat weather is actively raining. That's a problem sometimes. That really doesn't make sense, even if you were to consider the fact that they're just, like, random animals. Like, of course, you know, maybe it makes sense if they don't exactly do what you want them to do, but you would think that they would at least prioritize their own survival and would try to avoid the rain, but they don't even do that sometimes. So, oh, deer right here. Wow, we're so lucky. Unless they don't want to. Okay. An animal other than Slugcats. I think that definitely should be the case. You know, if there were to be a sequel, I think the most interesting potential is some region other than the local group, somewhere far away with dealing with other iterators. And maybe in like, or maybe not even iterators at all. Maybe it's like a completely different point in the timeline. Maybe closer to the ancients or like post iterators, like after the saints in the timeline. I think that's the most potential there is for any sort of like sequel, but I think it's kind of hard to make the gameplay very different because Slugcat is kind of just a generic like platforming character. Like they can run around and jump and climb poles and stuff, and like the main difference is that they're like physically simulated. But other than that, they're like they can do wall jumps, like you know. I feel like if there were to be a different creature entirely, then you'd either have to have a very similar move set to still be enjoyable to play and move around, or it would have to like have some entirely different way of movement, which might be kind of like awkward. So I don't know. I do have food. Yeah, like what happens to the world after Saints? Maybe we can have a look at what like goodbye game. It just crashed. Okay. Well, hope you enjoyed this blank screen for a bit as I reopen the game. You know, I think one of the echoes in the Saints campaign kind of mentioned the idea of like there being the cycle of like civilizations that like rise up and like build all these cities and whatever, only for them to eventually like succumb to the Void Sea. And I'm all the way back here. Uh, Thank you. Okay, let's do that again. Where do vultures hide from the rain? I'm pretty sure it's just on top of the iterators, right? That makes the most sense. You do see a decent amount of vultures in Metropolis, and there's plenty of other space up there for vultures to hang out. Like iterators are huge. There's plenty of space for like anywhere up there for vultures to be. But yeah, the idea of there being like these cycles of civilizations, you know, maybe we get a sequel to Rain World and it's like it looks like a completely different planet. Like there's no iterators, nothing about ancients at all. And then at some point it's revealed that this is actually like far in the future when like an entirely new civilization like has risen in the after the ruins of the ancients. And like the Void Sea is still there and the Void Worms and like the whole thing repeats. Although, like, I don't know. That feels like it'd be maybe a bit boring. It's like we kind of already get the idea if it's just a cycle that repeats. Although maybe, like, we would still be fine because it's just more Rain World, essentially. No, I want to go back to... Did you know? There's another Spore Puff right there. You can take it for free. Hello? Okay, goodbye, Centipede. Oh. Take care of the Centipede and calling the deer with one Spore Puff. Do not want to fall down, though. There's a spear right here. And I didn't go high enough. Maybe I can save this. See, wall passes are good. They're helpful. Now we just wait for a deer. Okay, so for vultures, it probably doesn't take too much effort for them to just fly above the clouds. And then once they're up there, they can just glide to the iterators. They're probably like pretty good at flying. I don't imagine it'd be too hard for them. And outside of the area where they're close to iterators, like in Outer Expanse, the rain isn't even lethal. So they don't need to escape the rain. They just need to find some like decent place to shelter. That doesn't even have to be like a real shelter. And plus the shelters in Outer Expanse are huge, right? They're like the big ones with the gates. I guess the vultures could use those if they wanted to, but you know, the rain is not lethal, so it's not too important. Okay, I have no idea what that comment even means. Personally, I've always thought Saint's timeline was its own cycle in a sea of timelines with their own cycles, so Saint's timeline may only be one cycle in the bigger picture of cycles. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I think the deer are taking a day off. Oh, here's one right now. Do you wanna come down? Do you want to come down? It's not how you... Okay. I think that the Saints campaign should have had ice. Some of the water areas should have frozen over into sheets of ice that you can slide across. I don't think I'll have enough time this cycle to make it to the next area, and I'll have to go back through the spider room. I don't know, making Rain World into a game that isn't Rain World, I don't know, that kind of defeats the purpose, right? Why should it have anything to do with Rain World? Because I think the whole point of it is that it's not like those kind of games. Like there are Metroidvanias that have a kind of similar feel, like Hollow Knight, right? You get to explore like a huge like kind of like ruin like civilization. That totally works. Okay, I just got 2 notifications for no reason. Hollow Knight totally works. So, but like Rain World does its own thing, so I don't see why that kind of thing should exist. But with actually complex AI, that's the kind of thing I was talking about with you know, other game developers would be inspired by Rain World. There might be a developer who came up with the idea of like let's make a game that's like a Metroidvania, but that has like AI and like an ecosystem like Rain World, you know. That's an interesting concept for a game on its own, but I don't think it should have to be Rain World. Oh, come on. And if someone wants to make a mod, I think a good way they can do that is by incorporating the regions that are like unique to specific characters. Like Submerged Superstructure or Metropolis, right? They're kind of hard to navigate without the characters that they were designed for. So if you could go around the map and like find places to unlock those characters' abilities, like Underwater Breath or an Explosive Jump, then that would let you explore those regions. So that's like kind of easy to make a mod to do that, because there's already the like expedition mode with the perks, so you could just use that system, and then all you have to do is like make a campaign that adds all of those regions together, and then like places to unlock those abilities. Although you're probably talking about like the entire game instead of just a mod, but that kind of thing is also possible. I get to go through this room again. That's a lot of fun. I don't think I can do it like that. You know, people can do whatever they want to do. They can create their fan things, you know, their original characters. I do not get it with Rain World. Iterators are the most like mundane and like practical things that could possibly exist. I don't know why iterators are the characters that people like to create original versions of with like really fancy designs, and like they're just robots with like one specific purpose. They're like, I think like it's specifically mentioned in game that the iterators weren't designed for any other reason other than to solve the great problem, and they cause so many other problems, like the rain and like making the surface uninhabitable. But people are like, oh, let's make my own iterator, and they have all these like fancy designs and like all of like the relationships between these iterator characters, and like, man, I don't think that fits Rain World at all. But you guys can have fun with that. There's something about Artificer. Local rep is locked, but their global rep can still be affected. But does that make a difference though? If you have like really good global reputation and you go into a region, they would still all hate you, except local. You could use it to stop kill squads. That's interesting, I suppose. Five cycles at Rain World. Yeah, I mean, iterators are pretty much the only characters in the game. The rest, I mean, and the Slugcats, of course, but they don't have as much of a like personality. So they, if like, we have a big fan base, and only a few characters, so they're going to rely on those characters for whatever else they want to create. Oh, you did Artificer's campaign as Monk, and Monk has like good global reputation. Unless you like went and gave them a bunch of pearls and stuff. But I'm pretty sure that the like scavenger reputation is a Artificer specific thing, right? Because if you play other campaigns, I wanted to give that to the deer, not the scavenger. If you play other campaigns as Artificer, the scavengers still hate you. It's not a part of their campaign, it's just their character. Whoops. Okay. Will the game crash? I hope it doesn't. Wow, it did not crash. That's great. I guess the best explanation for it is that the ancients created the puppets to be more like relatable. So that it felt like they were talking to a person and not like a massive machine. So like giving the puppets more of a personality and more of a character. No, I suppose it makes sense. Because it's kind of a reflection of the iterators themselves. Unfortunately, we now have to do the entire ending sequence of the game, so this will take a while. I guess if we want to like keep talking about random Rain World stuff, then this is our time to talk about it. I missed. I'm also dead. No, I'm not dead. There just happened to be a rock down there I could throw at that monster killed. I always hope that happens. And now it did. Tempo back to their location if the game crashes. I considered it. But I didn't want to have to go through the whole, like, go to remix options, enable dev tools. Like, load in all the mods again. How am I gonna get past this guy? Or, you know, let's just die to deer. Or die to wormgrass. Let's just do that first, you know? Wow, this lizard sucks. I imagine that, you know, that's probably just a bit of an oversight of the way that they set up Artificer's campaign. Like, they never expected you to be able to increase global reputation because the scavengers would never, like, accept. I suppose, like, if you use a mod to change it, of course it's going to have kind of weird behavior. You know, let's go the normal way. Oh, right, hold up. I should not go to the end. I wanted to see the rest of the cutscenes. So there's a shelter right here. Something's going on over there. Yeah, this is actually a great place to do it because there's a lot of food here. And apparently, like 5 spiders. Hello. Not that dangerous though, so. Despite the swarm of spiders, we're fine. Apparently the spiders just die when you sleep in a shelter. Okay, here we go. Here's another cutscene. Alright, that's wonderful. Okay, was that it? You just get destroyed by moles? I'm going to have to sleep for like 5 more cycles if I want to see the rest of that. There's plenty of food in this area, so. Ball of 5 spiders. I mean, I don't imagine spiders are particularly aggressive in this area. Because I think they're more aggressive. It depends on like how bright it is. So in like very dark areas like shaded, they're going to be more aggressive to you. And I think I have neuron light. I did eat a neuron, so I should be glowing right now. I just can't see it. But the spiders are scared of that. They should be. I love walking forward and then swimming down. Riveting gameplay. I think you've seen a single railroad mod where getting food is actually difficult. There's been a few actually, I think. Usually the ones that take place in the Saints campaign. I think the Outsider might have been one, because flying around consumes food. So if you accidentally flew around too much, you would run out of all the food that you could get. And there's only like a handful of like blue fruit that you can eat. Okay, there's just nothing there. That's all in my head. I think I might just eat these gooey ducks. Hello, spider. Have a good day. Yeah, soulless. It makes some of the blue fruit not good. Oh, you want to come in here? All right. Apparently, a lot of people had difficulty with the Outsider mod, or specifically getting it to work in the first place. Was that supposed to be a cutscene? What cycle are we on? '24. It's so easy to get food as this character. In this area, not as this character. I mean, it also as this character, they don't actually have that much of a food requirement. But this area has so many centipedes and gooey ducks and random other creatures. They're trying to make lizards also invisible for this character. I don't know what the dev has planned for this character, but I'm imagining for how they describe this character as like they adapted to using sound instead of their vision because they got blinded. I imagine that based on that description, they would want to make everything invisible unless it's making a sound. And this is just what they were able to do with the experience that they had and like maybe like technical limitations. They're not dead. Now they're dead. They just wanted to bite me one last time before they actually died. Most difficult mods are the ones where you can't even play the game. Yep. I think I got cheaped in for fighting that lizard in front of the scavenger. Yeah, I think this character would be better if you could see less, because then you'd have to rely more on the whole sound thing. Because for now, it's basically like, it's just like a little bit harder to see things that are far away from you. And it also depends on like whether it's glowing or not, which is kind of jank. Like I can see these random plants in the background because they just happen to be glowing. And like lizards and some creatures' eyes are glowing, so you can see them. But like a centipede, you just can't see that at all. It's like completely invisible. I don't know if there's another cutscene. Because they should play every 5 cycles, right? I think that's what it's been. I mean, maybe it bugged out because last time was kind of weird what happened. I go until cycle 30. If nothing happens, I'm just going to ascend. Maybe that was the last one. I mean, it was in the same place where you start the campaign. You pretty much start right next to that area, but I theorize that it doesn't really make sense for that to be the case because some accident happened that caused them to lose their vision, and then they had to adapt to using sound instead of their vision to perceive the world around them. And I don't think you'd just be able to do that in a few cycles. So I don't know why they would be like hanging out in filtration system for a long time. I guess like where else would they go? I don't know. I guess that accident was just a bunch of mole lizards. And that's it. I will continue though. Also, there's a huge jump between like crossing a toll with Hunter and then suddenly I'm in filtration system. I might have missed another cutscene. It's funny that these centipedes keep just coming back. Just infinite food source. Lizards ate their eyeballs. Sometimes people are confused by the Slugcat's actions. Oh. Okay, every time there's a long loading screen. Like artificers, for example, people wonder like if the artificer lost their slug pups and they were like super like mad about it, why didn't they just die? And they would be revived through the cycle to see their slug pups again, right? I think that these slug pups are still like mostly just animals, and they aren't like completely aware of the cycle. So your like first instinct wouldn't be, I'm gonna die right now to get revived back when my children are still alive. That's probably not the first thing that they're thinking about. Same with Survivor. What is going on over there? Oh, it's just a bunch of spiders. I think it was a spider reviving another one. That's that weird sound. Can I go to Outer Expanse? The gate's probably closed at this point in the timeline. And I don't even want to go there. It's probably just the just like their instincts to stay alive, overriding any idea of like I'm gonna die on purpose to go back in time. Like the survivor technically could have just like died immediately when getting separated from his family, but their first instinct was to try to survive instead of doing that, of course. Although, you know, it is like that said that the Slugcats are quite intelligent compared to most creatures. They really managed to dodge that. Okay, I have no idea where the spear went. I threw it right in front of them. They didn't care at all. Also dropping risk. Let's say red centipede. I think it is. I just threw a bat fly at that. That's a red centipede. You can actually kind of see it slightly. And there's the hard evidence. Can I sneak on by the... No, I cannot. I don't know why the centipedes do that. They just like walk straight behind you. But never catching up. Yeah, don't mind me. I'm so sorry, scavenger. Oh, that really hit them. No, let me through. Okay, spider speed boost. Let's go. Have I seen the Deadlands region concept? I'm pretty sure I have. If that's the one where there's the Slugcat that can like glide around. I have seen that. And I find it funny that in his like region concept videos, there's always like a ton of creatures. Like there's always like unique variants of all the creatures we're familiar with and a whole bunch of new creatures as well. And then Downpour adds like a handful. A handful of new creatures here and there. Most of them are just variants of existing ones. I think that's the unfortunate thing about Downpour, that there's really not that many new creatures added, and most of them are just like slight variants of the ones we already know. And in these region concept videos, he comes up with like, it's a community thing, right? But they come up with like so many different creatures specifically suited for that specific environment. Meanwhile, for Saints campaign, it's like everything's entered in Ice Age, and it's like orange lizards, flying centipedes, and scavengers. That's all you get. I suppose it makes sense, right? For there to not be too many new creature types, because it is the same local area. There's probably not time for like, and well, most of the creatures are like purpose organisms, right? It doesn't really make sense for there to be new creatures that just show up out of nowhere. For the sake of gameplay variety, I think it is quite important. Most of Downpour went into the region design and dating simulator. Yep. That's definitely the best part of Downpour. The regions. And like the environmental storytelling. That's all very good. Too many creatures would be too complicated. I mean for the new campaigns. For Rivulets, I think like Rivulet, Spearmaster, and Saint are the only ones that really need new creatures. And like Spearmaster is debatable. Like a few new creatures for Rivulets, and then like a good handful more for Saint. I think that could have really helped out to make them actually feel like really different parts of the timeline. Especially because I think that orange lizards and Centawings are way too overused in Downpour. They're like fairly unique creatures that are like pretty much only commonly seen in like Sky Islands, and orange lizards are also kind of associated with iterators. But then after that, they're just like absolutely everywhere. I think it's like totally fair to have a bunch of new creatures because everyone was already very overwhelmed when they first played Ran World, right? They first ran into all these like new creatures for the first time. So it only makes sense that we'd get to experience that kind of thing again with the like super different campaigns like Rivulets and Saints. I'm still unable to do that thing. This character is supposedly able to create spears, and or like create a special type of spears, and I have yet to figure out how to do that, or maybe it just doesn't work. There's orange lizards. Oh, I don't know. I don't think so. Sky Islands and the exterior are like where you're gonna find them. And they might rarely show up because of lineage, but that's not really real. Some sort of radio communication. There's always some way that you can explain the existence of a creature by what the ancients might have used it for. All creatures are descendants of purpose organisms, so the ancients created a creature for some purpose, and then it kind of adapted slightly to the environment, and that's the kind of creature that we see today. They can even get high up, they can't climb walls. I mean, I imagine that they were just like put up there and they never climbed down. Also, there's the creature pipes. The pipes that only creatures can go into. They can usually use those to get a decent amount of height. Like without them, green lizards would always get stuck in the lowest possible area because they can't climb anything, but they can always go into their creature pipes and get somewhere higher. Be dumb, but have friends. I can probably see this area totally fine without the illumination around me. There's already pretty much the same effect going on. Hope they fixed the flickering of the like illumination thing. That's probably just how it works. And the mod didn't really change it much, but that makes sense. But I imagine that orange lizards were created by iterators specifically to protect themselves. This is where I lower the volume of the game because this area is so loud. Am I going to have this grid around me? Also, this looks kind of weird. It's like so dark. And then flashbang. Oh goodness, I see what you mean now. Hopefully this isn't as bad in the... once we leave this part of the Void Sea, where it's the brightest. If I can also swim correctly. Or you could instantly skip to the end of the game. I think that would be cool too. Oh, it might get even worse. So I just have this grid around me now. Oh, is it fading away? Okay, it's not as bad now. You see that I'm struggling with the swimming here? Yeah, playing Raven really does mess up all your other characters because their timings are so much more lenient. I love getting pushed up by the void worms. Now we're all the way back up here. The giant deep fryer. Yep. This is what all of Rain World just builds up to. Luckily for speedruns, you don't actually have to go through the sequence. Once you reach the Void Sea, the area where the screen starts scrolling, you can see actually at the top of the screen the timer is already stopped. That's where we end speedruns, and I'm very happy about that. But if you actually want to see the ending, you do have to just go through this whole thing. Triple affirmative flavored. Well, the voice of literally isn't the triple affirmative. That would be the other thing, 5 Pepsi. Technically, this area should be completely like dark. I think it'd be cool. I mean, it's probably kind of a pain to do this, but it'd be cool for a future version of the mod for you to not be able to see any of the void worms in the distance. It'd be kind of like empty feeling. There's a lot more that could be changed with this mod to make it actually feel like you're blind. Or maybe there's just like so much like stuff happening, so much noise that it's like kind of hard to tell what's going on at all. Yeah, I don't know, maybe it's not a problem. I mean, this character, I think they're interesting in the sense that it's like, it kind of makes the game feel unique, right? Showing the grid is like offset. Like, it made a lot of areas feel very unique. Being able to actually see better in shaded Citadel, but like not being able to see as much in like Sky Islands or Chimney Canopy regions that are usually very bright and visible. But I don't think that it actually changes gameplay all that much. Like, I think it would have been more interesting if it was like, you can only see things that make a sound. So if a white lizard is sitting there, you can't see it at all until it starts moving. And there could be certain things like throwing rocks around to try to like aggravate creatures, or to just use the sign of the rock to figure out what's going on. And that would kind of add more strategy to their ability, you know. It's not really ability, it's kind of just a downside that they're blind, but you know, being able to because the description of this character states that, you know, it's their hearing that's you know, they're much better at hearing than at like seeing stuff because they're blind. So being able to use that to your advantage, but unfortunately that wasn't ever really the case. But it's probably just like either like a limitation for creating mods or like the way the game is rendering. What does line of sight do with this slug? I have no idea. Apparently it's interesting. I think someone did comment on the workshop that it's kind of interesting to do, but I do not have that mod, so I cannot check. Like using echolocation, I imagine that that's the idea. It's kind of like the way mole lizards work, right? The moment you make a sound, they know where you are, roughly. But otherwise, they have no idea that you're there. I think this character could also benefit greatly from a completely unique region. I think someone mentioned like an extension of Shaded Citadel or Subterranean, where it's like completely dark, but you have to use your like improved hearing to like actually know what's going on. It's always nice when a Slugcat has a region designed around its unique abilities. With the bat vision on the map? Are you talking about like the circles that show up on the map? I mean, I guess that's kind of what the slug senses are, right? You can look on the map to see where things are, but that probably shouldn't be a thing. Oh wow, the art style changed. I wonder if this is where the modded stuff is. Okay, it's a little bit buggy. I think that was the hunter there that we got to reunite with. Which does confirm that within this mod, hunter does go in and descend. And that maybe they abandoned the slug pup in filtration. But it's probably very common, because I like to mention what happened in that one score run that I did, but a lot of people probably had a similar experience of finding a slug pup and bringing it with them in the hunter's campaign, but eventually stopping infiltration because they realized that they could not bring their slug pup to ascend. Like submerged superstructure and silent construct. Yeah. Submerged superstructure is like the main inspiration for that idea. Because, you know, rivulets is good at swimming, but shoreline isn't really that big and there's not too many open areas to swim around in. But then submerged superstructure has like massive underwater caverns where there's like a bunch of aquatic creatures, and it really lets rivulet move around underwater. So the same kind of idea for this character, where there's like a huge like dark cavern that's like even more expansive than Shaded Citadel. Because Shaded only has like a few areas to go through, and then there's not even really a reason to stick around in Shaded because you either want to leave to get to Pebbles or Moon. So if like their main objective was to go to that, although I don't know how they get that to work, because it seems like their objective is in fact to ascend to meet back up with Hunter. But there we go. That's this character. Molds thrown at their eye. Pocket sand. Alright, well, that's going to be the end of the stream. Thanks everyone for watching. I did enjoy this character, although, you know, there's a lot of things that could be improved about it, but it's mostly, I imagine it's mostly like difficulties with the game engine being kind of messy to try to change. But yeah, good concept. I will probably check this character out again if it gets updated in the future. So yeah. Thanks everyone for watching. See ya.